Hello and welcome to another video session here at NAV SEAL. I'm delighted to see you again. Today I wanted to share some information with you about item availability. I know from time to time it can be a little bit difficult to kind of get the helicopter view, if you will, of where your items are, if you're using different locations and different bins and so on and so on. There's different ways to do that. There's different approaches to where you can get the information, but at least I wanted to share some of the knowledge I have about that, and then you can decide to use it or not. But let's jump right into it, into my demo database here, and let's look at our item list. So let's find an item in here I have prepared a little bit for you. My Atlanta whiteboard. Now, when you look at the item card, you're probably all familiar with the inventory part of the item card, where you can look at the quantity on hand, you can look at the different parts with the purchase orders and sales orders and so on. So for example, if I click on the quantity on hand, I will drill down into the item ledger entries. That is my detailed level of all my transactions that makes up my inventory. And that's useful sometimes, but if you want to get that helicopter view, it might not be as useful for that purpose. I will just say that you could still use this and export it to Excel, for example, or use it for some other purposes. But let's just skip this one. There's another one here with the 3 assist dots in it in the box. If I click on that, it's going to show me all the different locations and even the one that's have no location. One warning in here is that the locations you're going to see in here are all the locations that does not have a check mark in the bin mandatory. So that means if you have any locations with a check mark in bin mandatory, it's not going to show in here. And why is that? It's because Microsoft has given us the opportunity to make adjustments from this page. You can see there's a column called quantity to adjust. And there's no functionality to support the bin adjustments, so that's why you will not find locations in here that uses bins. But at least it's a way to kind of get a quick view of the inventory of your different locations. As you also probably know is that you can drill down into the different fields, quantity on purchase order. If I click on that, it's going to show us all the purchase lines with any outstanding quantities in there. So that is how the system will calculate what is outstanding, as you could say, supply. What are we expecting to receive into our warehouse? Kind of the same idea when you look at our quantity on sales order, the 48. I can look at that list page and see all the orders, all the demands that goes into the system in here. Now I say demand and I say supply, so just keep in mind that a demand could also be a transfer order, just to mention that as one of the other ones. It could also be a supply, because you could say there's 2 sides to a transfer. We're transferring something from this location to this location, so there's a demand and a supply in the same document, if you will. But enough about that. So that's one way to look at it. But what I really like about this option up here is something called item availability by. And if you click on it, it's going to show you some options in here. Now we looked at the location just before, and if I click on the location option in here, it's going to show me a new page. And the good thing about this page compared to the other one, where I had a little warning about it's not going to include all the locations, this page will include all locations. I know there's a location in here called W bin with bin. That is one of those locations that has check mark in bin mandatory. So we can see all locations in here. We can see where we can find our inventory. Not just where we have our inventory, but also the system, what is set up in the system representing all our supply and all our demand. So you can see up here, for example, we have the gross requirement up here, 19 for the main location. So if I click on that, it's going to show me there's 19 on sales lines, and if I click on that 19, it's going to drill down even further into all the sales lines that makes up that number of 19. That's nice. So at least here I get a little better helicopter view, because now if I really want to see it by locations, I can do that. And this is a brilliant way to do that. So the requirements will show the 19 in here. I can see there's some scheduled receipt of 4. Okay, what is that? And receipt, that's our supply purchase. I can see there's 4 in here. That's just one line in here. But again, exactly the same idea. I start out with the helicopter view and I can drill in to the details if I want to do that. So as you can see, I have 98 on hand here. So my projected available balance would be 83. So basically that means I can accept orders for 83. I might not have all 83 really physically in inventory, because some of it might be on a purchase that's ordered but not delivered yet, not received into the warehouse yet. But I have documents in the system that can handle a demand of 83 net. So that's one way to look at it. Now a little thing up here, sometimes you can view it by different periods. And if you do it by day, it can become a little bit confusing the way it filters out the information down here. So I usually take it up to a month or quarter or something like that and use the balance at date to kind of get that information down here. Okay, so that's one of them. Let's try and see what other options we have up here. We have period. Okay, let's have a look. So the idea here is that what is the critical, what is the most important information for us when we look at that? That's the period. When we looked at location, location was kind of our starting point and say, okay, I want to know, I want to have the information by location. Now here I want to see it by period, meaning by day. And one of the great things about Business Central is that you can decide to view it by different periods. So if you really want to drill down into the days, you can do that by week or month or so on. It's up to you how you want to have the data presented to you. So for me, I have it by month. So you see June, July, August, and so on. But basically I have the same information in here as I had it by the locations. So I can still drill into it and see what makes up that number of 18 that goes together with June. So that's another way to look at the information, if you will. Let's skip this one. I will say one of the ones I like the best is the one called event. The event in here, let me just collapse them all. So up in the top you have some filter choices. So this one is that I'm only looking at one item. That's, yeah. And down here again you can view it by different types of period, day, week, month, and so on. We can do like that, and we can have some options over here. I'll get back to that. But as you can see down here, I have collapsed all the information, meaning I'm keeping it on a day level. If I change that to, let's say, week, it would change the information to week, 13, 14, 18, 23, and so on, or by month if I wanted to do that. Now that could be a starting point, and you could say again, it's kind of start up here, up high, then drill down into the information. And I like this page because you get this expand option up here. So you can see I expand the information, and now I've got all my locations up here, even the one without any location, you could say. So you can see I have my main location, I have my current quantity on hand on the main location is 98. Oh, great, that's perfect. But if I really want to see, if I'm planner or I'm a sales rep or any person that has some interest in as to how will the development be for our inventory, what is the plan for selling, for purchase or forecast and so on, this is the way to see it. So let's just do this. So you can expand the March, and I can see I have all my sales in here. Oh, great. So that's my requirements in here. I have 20 for March, and I can see it split up on these 3 documents. Nice. It's actually the same document. I can see number 1001 here, but I have 3 different locations on it. Oh, interesting. So let's have a look at the document. So I use the option show document, if I want to drill even further into it, I can see this is Robert, and this is the sales order that makes up that requirement, that demand for that item. Perfect. So let's go back again. No, that's fine. I didn't see much more in there. Oh, next period, April, I have a purchase order for the location top. Perfect. I have, so you can see the column called scheduled receipt expected to come into the warehouse. I have 4 waiting there. They should be coming in. You can see April 6th, we have from our vendor Fabric Cam. We're expecting something come in. Also down here from Graphic Design Institute, I have 2 coming in on a purchase order number 106004. Great. That's without any location. That's why it's blank out there in the location code. Perfect. So you can see all the way to the right, we end up with a suggested projected inventory, and that's going to use all the information that is represented by demand and supply. But there's a little bit more to it, or there can be a little bit more to it. Now, if you use forecast, you could include that as well. I've created a very little simple forecast. I just call it standard Q. If I do that, let's just try and expand it all. See down here, I have 2 lines showing my forecast from that specific forecast name up here. And I can see in July and August, I have a forecast for 125 and I have 150 for August. So that means if I expect to sell something out there in July and August, I should plan for it. I should probably buy something for it. So, but it's an option if you look at this availability page to see if you really want to see that information. Let's take it away again. Now, anyone that plans in Business Central, they're going to use the planning worksheet or requisition worksheet. Now, by default, it's not shown in here, but sometimes that's really nice to see that in the same page in here. So if I do this, show my planning suggestions, what's going to happen then? Down here, I see there's a plan line for that Atlanta whiteboard. That is the item we're looking at. And we have 265, no, that's 65, sorry. It's not even that, it's 25 action plan. So, okay, what does that mean? Let's look at the document. It is my planning worksheet. Planning worksheet is the tool for the planner to plan what they're going to buy or manufacture, what they're going to transfer, to kind of keep track of all the inventory so we have enough in the right place at the right time when we want to sell it. So this is a line that was created in our planning worksheet. So we are planning to create a purchase order for 25. So it's not a purchase order yet. It's in our planning worksheet, and the planner is looking at it and say, okay, I think I'm going to buy that. That's why it's in the planning worksheet, but it's not been executed yet. So that is why if I go back to my page here, it's an option if I want to include it or not, because you could say it's not really a purchase order yet. So do I want to include it? But still, maybe I want to know that someone is planning for it. So that's an option. In here, we also, it's all already activated, by the way, something called blanket sales orders. And I think there's, oh yeah, down here, see here. So we have a blanket sales order. Let's have a look at it. What is that? So we have a blanket sales order for Robert at Datum Corporation. Now, if you don't know what a blanket sales order is, it is kind of a forecast. Our customer at Datum Corporation has kind of committed to buying some Atlanta whiteboards from us over time. But it's not a fixed order, you could say. They have told us they want to buy 200 over a period of 6 months or 12 months, whatever we agree with them. And we can put that into the blanket sales order. So we have kind of an idea. It's a lot better than just a forecast, because forecast is usually based on history. This is better because we have been in contact with this customer, and this customer said, yeah, you know what? I'm planning to buy this from you over the next X number of months, for example. So we are going to create a blanket sales order for that. So that's why we have that in the system. But again, it's an option. You don't have to include it in your page if you don't want to see that information. So that's why I really like having those options up here. So you know, if you want to really have it on a daily basis, and you might say that, okay, I just want to look at the next week or 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah, you might want to do it by the day. But if you want to look at the more long term, you want to check the next 6 months and so on, you might want to change the view to week, a month, a quarter even, just to kind of summarize the information in a different way. So that's why I really like this page called Item Availability by Event. Now, last thing I'm going to talk about is bin content. All the information we've seen so far is our numbers summarized by location, by time, and so on. Now, if you use warehouses with bins, you know that warehouse could have your inventory spread out all over the warehouse. It could be on different shelves, in the back, in the front, in the top, all over the warehouse. And if you do use bins, you really want to know where to find that specific item, where in the warehouse, in which bin. Now, from the item, if you go to Related to Warehouse and you look at bin contents, you can see that our location called WBin, that's the one I created, has 3 bins with something in it, bin 1, 2, and 3, very creative. And I can see there's 10, 20, and 30 in each bin in there. So 10 in bin number 1, 20 in 2, and 30 in bin number 3. So in total 60. And the 60 is what we're going to see when we look at the item or look at it by location. It doesn't split it up by the bins. So that is why we have something called bin content. One information more I want to give you when we talk about bin content. I have added a column called available quantity to take. It is not shown by default, but you probably know that if you go to personalize and you go to fields, you can search for the field and just insert it into the page. That is what I have done because I really want to show you that information that is really nice. So, do you see the lines here? The second line here for bin number 2 has 20 in inventory for that specific bin. But it says there's only 16 available to take. Okay, why is that? And the reason that is because when you use warehouse documents and you use pick documents, the second you create a pick document, meaning there's a sales order, there's a customer that wants to buy this specific item, someone is going out or plan to go out into the warehouse and pick from that specific bin number 2 in this scenario and take that specific item back to the shipping area. Now, when we create that warehouse pick, we cannot expect anyone else to use that same. So up here we can see there's difference for 4, there's 16 available. That means there's a pick document out there saying 4. So someone in the warehouse is going to pick 4. So if we have another sales order for the same item, the system will know that we cannot pick more than 16 because someone is already out there picking the 4. So sometimes you will see whoever creates those warehouse documents, it will come up and say nothing available. And you say, why is that? I can see there's 20 available. But really what you have to look at is you have to look at available quantity to take, because there might be other warehouse documents, other pick documents in the process of being picked. So that is why the system will say, no, we have 20, but someone is actually picking the 4 in this scenario. But it could be that all 20 is being picked at the moment. So that is why I wanted to highlight that information when you look at the bin content. This column is really, really nice to have when you use warehouse picks. Great, that was a little deeper introduction to availability for items. I hope you could use the information and it will benefit you in your daily work. You know, it was a pleasure talking about it. I really like the warehouse. I really like to talk about it, really like to dig into it. Feel free to contact us or feel free to look for any of our other videos out there. We have a lot of exciting information out there. It was a pleasure to meet you today. You take care. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video from NAV SEAL. Check out more right here. NAV SEAL offer assistance and counsel on any existing solution, so if you're in need of assistance, don't hesitate to contact us on navseal.com or LinkedIn. Consider leaving a like and subscribe for more tips, news, and guides to anything Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central.